McCall here. Phyllis is Sam Schoolcraft's daughter. How many of you were there?
5 of us.
5 of you. What? Name them for me.
Carlos is my brother.
Carlos?
2 years older than me, then Janice, and Linda and Wanda. 5 in our home.
I went to school with Wanda.
You did?
Yeah.
You might have went
with Linda.
Linda did
too. Yeah, we see Janice every once in a while. She's over in Virginia somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she
comes by here. Well, what are you doing at the church? I came by Cooktown. That's up there at the top of
Well, back
hill.
in 1954, when my dad, Samuel Schoolcraft, was building the church.
He worked at the pin mill at the time, right?
He worked there at the pin mill, and cinder blocks was like 18 cents a piece, and they made it out of cinder block. They had to do with what they had to do with. And my uncle, James Schoolcraft, helped him. And they started this church down here, and it was called the Old Advent Christian Church then. Now it's just Cooktown Church. My dad wanted it that way before he died. He fixed it to its, well, they call it Cooktown Community Church.
Right.
And so it's a lot of family and friends that comes there, and we're just wanting to, you know, get back and make it warmer so it won't be so cold in the winter, because the cinder block's real cold.
Yeah, it was cold in the winter.
So my dad always said, you know, he wished he had the money to put the sheetrock and insulation.
Your daddy was a poor man.
Yeah, he was, but he built 2 churches in his lifetime. They got the one that we have now still going, along with the help of his brother, and of course my brother Carlos. And I really don't know who all was in on it, but I know there was several helped, you know. I wouldn't want to leave no one out, but there was a lot of people.
Well, he built one in Thomastown too, right?
And that one they sold and put money in on this one to keep it going, I think, at that time. Because it used to be they didn't get very big collections, you know, and things. And they kept the power going. They bought wood and had this old wood stove in her. We haven't used wood for several years. We've used electric and oil, and we actually had our oil stole one year. And
they stole the church's oil?
Yeah, they did one year, but anyhow, we had good neighbors that come forward and donated us money back for our oil. And so of course we got the oil tank inside the storage room now. That was one of the first things we built, the storage room. Of course, without any more room, we don't have nothing but the outdoor bathroom, which it cost a lot to make a two-way men and women. Good outdoor toilet there, which we can get pumped out, you know.
And you don't have a run of water either, right?
No, we don't have running water. But we carry our jugs of water down, and we make our coffee and stuff.
That's the way they used to do it in the old days.
Yeah. And, well, Dad never ate in the church. I don't know if he didn't believe in it or what it was, but, you know, we eat outside a lot, picnics and things, which they used to do.
Your daddy was an old-time preacher.
He was an old-time preacher. And he preached the Bible the way he seen it, stood up for what he believed in. You know him.
Yes.
You know how he used to help us out in the morning.
I thought the world of him.
He used to come to church and
he was right up
out
there with my daddy.
Yeah, he was. Your dad was his best friend.
Yeah.
And after my daddy died, of course, your dad was like a dad to me.
Yeah.
And I went to him and talked to him. He helped me a lot. He comforted me a lot.
Yeah.
And he told me, you know, it was my dad's time to go, and that Dad was okay. And I knew my dad
And I think Daddy preached his funeral.
Yeah, he did.
I preached your mother's funeral.
And you preached Mom's funeral.
She was a sweetheart.
Yes, she was. I miss her, and I feel like her and Daddy's right in here with us, you know, in this spirit.
Yeah, you were telling me that when you decided to fix it up this time, that your husband, who's the pastor, sort of had an idea.
He just got up one morning and he said, I know how we'll get to Cooktown Church warm. He said, I think we're going to sheetrock it, insulation, and put powder, because my husband's been a pastor almost 3 years now. And he keeps getting these ideas, you know. He says the light bulb goes off, is what he said. But actually, I think God's speaking with him. And the things that Sam Schoolcraft, my dad, wanted are happening now. And
so you think there's a little transmission from heaven on that one?
Yeah, I kind of floored me when he said that, because Dad and I had a conversation about it once. And he said if he had had the money, at that time he would have put the sheetrock in, you know, and it's going to be beautiful there. They've got that part done. All one Sunday school room needs to be sheetrocked yet and insulated, and they're going to paint the whole church white inside. It is beautiful so far. They've widened that doorway out there, you know, some where you come in. It's kind of got a, I don't know, oval shape to it. But my sister Janice was really pleased, and she just said, "Praise the Lord," when she walked in and seen how the good work are doing. Wayne Liptrap's been up there working on the ceilings, you know. And
Wayne's a good man.
Stuccoed, they are.
We saw him working. We saw him resting the other day.
They have not stopped, and they have helped David. Today they're a little slower. But now David has had two good friends there, Pete Tenney and Wayne Liptrap, and of course my boys have worked. You know little Dave's disabled.
Yeah.
But he went down and actually put the covers on the sockets for him back on. He's trying to do that for him. It's something that he can stoop down and do and screw them on. And Doug is our janitor now, my son Doug. I've got all three of my sons in
Isn't that amazing?
And Dad prayed for this. And you know, we were talking one time, and Dad said, "I don't know if they'll ever go or not." He said, "Maybe after I'm dead and gone." I said, "Well, Dad, prayers do come true after people are gone." And his did. They still are. They still happen.
Your daddy was a praying man.
He was. He prayed. I remember our devotions at night when Dad would... Actually, I got saved the same night my dad did. I was 14 years old. And Dad had been a Christian. He grew up in a Christian family. His dad was a minister. And he had actually preached some sermons when he was 16. But he had strayed away from the Lord like people do, you know. But I never knew any different than when I was in a Christian home. Because there was never any cussing in our home. Never anything bad, you know, going on. But Dad always knew, we never kept us from church. We'd go to church anywhere we wanted. When we lived out there at Beaver Creek, where you live, we went to Teddy Alderman. He's your uncle.
Yeah, he was a preacher.
Okay, Carlos and I would go to that church and then over to the Church of God on up the road. And we loved going to church. We always had, you know. And I just kept it up. I just couldn't see how anybody could not want to go to church. Of course, dumb on me, I got straight off from the Lord too. I was trying to run from him. He never left me. I believe in the part where God won't take you from his grasp. I believe in that. And because when I would do something I know was wrong, I would feel God pulling me back. And he took me out of the beer joint 1979. I ain't been one since.
That's a long time.
Praise the Lord for that.
He dried you out when it come to that, didn't he?
He did. And my dad, you couldn't fool my dad. My dad knew. He would tell me, "Now I know you got to get back to church. I know you're not doing right," or something. He'd hear something, you know. He'd know it was true because people would tell him. And I think a lot of things he just guessed at. You know, the Lord made.
But he would have guessed right.
Yeah, he would have guessed right because I wasn't doing right, not the way I'd been taught. But Dad was so forgiving, and he always.
He was a gentleman.
He was like
not just a gentleman. He was a gentleman.
Yeah, he was gentle with people, and but you could get him fired up too, you know. He'd tell you the way it was. I can't help but think of poor old Don Nordstrom, you know. When he was down there, he told them exactly how it was.
I love Don, but he spoke with a soft voice too.
But at the end of one of his meetings down here, he told them it was a gentleman that wouldn't come to the altar, and I think he'd been trying to get him for a long time. He says, "Well, I'll just tell you like this, there's two places to go when you die." He said, "One's heaven and one's hell, and don't go to hell or you're going to have a hell of a time." Now, he said that, I didn't. I'm just quoting what he said.
Right. But Don would do that. He could say it plain.
Yeah, Don was, we really missed him and Barbara, and you know, she prayed for me to quit smoking. So 7 years ago, May the 2nd, I have not craved a cigarette since. I prayed too. One day, I just tore my cigarettes up, threw them in the trash, and my husband, David, said, "They know you should be doing that, so you'll be going back to town and get a pack." I said, "No, I won't," because I said, I asked the Lord this time to help me, to just take them cigarettes. And you know, everything I asked the Lord for, he give me, he taught me to hate them. I can honestly say I have not craved a cigarette in over 7 years. I dreamed about them one time, a silly dream. And I dreamed that I had a cigarette that didn't have tobacco in it. I woke up, I said, "Lord, don't let me have any more silly dreams about cigarettes," and I never did.
Your husband was a logger. Yeah,
he worked hard in the logs. And then we, of course, you know, he lost one whole log truck and lost our businesses there in town in the flood.
Yeah.
And we had moved out 2 weeks before that because I just felt like we needed to get out of there. We didn't know there was going to be a flood, but we felt that pulling, you know. And he, of course, whenever I said I feel like we should go, We did. We got out of there. But the sad story was, my sister-in-law, Dreama, was living in that house, see. And she lost a lot of her stuff downstairs. We lost our businesses and all that. But
well, your daddy's house was flooded.
My dad's house. Well, actually, it didn't go inside Daddy's house, but my Grandma Aldrich's house down on the river, it went away in '85. It floated away. And that was enough old home place I loved to see, you know. I always loved that old house. The long porch almost all the way around. And I have some very good childhood memories of Buckeye.
Your brother Carlos's goods went down the river, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he lost his
streamers over the trees.
Carlos lost all his house, and that's why he's got the home place now. Well, Dad and Mom always wanted Carlos to have the home place. And so he's got that, and he's still there struggling, and he's got his little flea market store up there on the hill where the flood can't get it now. And they're working the garden. He's going on 77, and I'm going on 75.
Carlos is the best flea market man around the country.
Well, I always told him he could sell a fly glue to a piece of paper. But I'm real proud of my family. One thing about us, we're very forgiving and we love each other. If you'd put us all in the same room, we'd probably argue about something. But we love each other. And
I know that to be a fact.
I know you should know us by now.
Right.
We don't take up for each other if we do something bad, but we don't like to know about it, maybe. But I don't know anything bad on my family. I'm real proud of all my family.
Well, we're proud of Carlos. He got back in church. And he's a leader in the church.
Actually, if it wasn't for Carlos, I don't think we'd have got the church back this time. It was locked. The door was locked for 2 years. Because I just kept praying, you know, Lord, I need some help. I want my family to come back to church. And I won't call any names, but there was a preacher that preached about beer. And Dad always, somehow it just hit me the wrong way. He says, if a preacher ever comes in here and takes up for the beer and the drinking, he said, you don't have to stay in the church. He said, you leave and find you another church. So I did. But I grieved for 2 years. I grieved because Dad wanted that church to go on, you know. He wanted us to keep going. So I bugged him. If you want to know the truth, I bugged Carlos, I bugged Jack, I bugged everybody. So Carlos said, well, you bugged me long enough, so he got the keys back, and we didn't want to change the lock and do that. We want to get along with people, you know. He got the keys back and got in. And actually, Maxine Shears, my cousin, helped me. It was just her and I the first day we went down there to clean up the place, and we said, well, we may as well take up an offering. And we didn't have any money, so we put what we had in there. We got $1.95, her and I together. And then the next meeting was me, Carlos, Maxine, and little Dave, my son. So we went with 4 of us for a while in just Bible study, and then it come 5. Then it would come 6. Then it would come 7. Next thing you know, we started having exactly the same amount that there was at the Lord's Supper. With Jesus, it was 13, right? So we thought it was funny. We would laugh every now and then that it always stopped on that number 13.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's not unlucky because we're all here. It's not an unlucky number. I didn't believe in that stuff anyway. And so I told him, I said, well, that's the amount that was the Lord's Supper. I said, the Lord's telling us so. So we stayed with it. Now we've got like, actually we have 30-some members, but they're not all active. I'd say we got about 20 active members.
Well, I was there for your Christmas program, and it was really a sweet program.
Yeah, we could have used a few more seats maybe that night.
Oh, it was packed.
Yeah, it was.
It was packed.
But we needed a way when they go to the kitchen, you know, it needed that door a little bit wider. And I didn't, my light bulb, as they call it, didn't go off quick enough. And I didn't tell them I'd like to head that over a couple more inches, you know, because see, when they file in there on the right, then the others can file back out. But I think they're going to manage to.
Well, you all had food there in that back room.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Just had to kind of file through there and
then
come back out.
That's what they do. They fill their plates up and come back out. Well, that one Sunday school room, see, they can use that long table and chairs around that in the wintertime. And we come on back out and sit down in the pews. And
you know, it's no telling. Liable to end up with a fellowship hall there.
Yeah, well,
behind there, everybody gets excited.
If my husband could do it, because, I mean, you mentioned something and he does it when it comes to remodeling and doing things for church, you know, he loves it. I never thought that he would be where he is. Well, the first night he preached, Barbara Nordstrom was there. He didn't have his license yet. He just got up and preached. And it shocked me. And I remember the name of it was "What Would Jesus Do?" was the name of his first message. I was stunned, and I couldn't stop listening, you know. And Barbara come back and she says, "Get up there and shake your husband's hand." I said, "Well, pinch me first. See if I'm dreaming."
Yeah.
Because I really didn't. It was just hard to get used to, you know. And being a pastor's wife hasn't been easy for me, you know.
No. David's a good man, and it's just nice to see him doing something special for the Lord now.
He gets real tired.
Well, I know. I saw when I passed him the other day out there in front of the church, he looked like he was wore out.
He is. But he loves it.
Because he's on oxygen,
and
right?
He gets back up, he'll lay down and rest a little bit before he eats his supper. Then he'll eat his supper and he's right back up at his computer working on his sermon. The next day he just goes and goes and goes. The Lord give him strength, and here's what he would like for me to tell you. I know David would like for me to tell you that the Lord woke him up, is why he's where he is today. See, he had cancer several times he had operated on. We prayed for him and the Lord took that away. And then he had an aneurysm was where he burst. And they got all that, you know. And he had pneumonia, and they x-rayed him and found an aneurysm. So his first testimony, I'll never forget it. He got up and praised the Lord for having pneumonia. And people was just looking, you know, why is he praising the Lord for having pneumonia? And he says, the reason I'm praising the Lord for having pneumonia is because they found the aneurysm. And then God saved my life. And so then he had the lung reduction surgery. And he says he was calm. He wasn't afraid of nothing. He said, Lord will get me through. He's still on his oxygen, but he still has a little more strength than he did. So he's been through a lot. And he keeps going because he knows that God's right there beside him. And I think he believes too, you know. Well, you knew my dad was an Adventist, and Dad didn't believe that you knew anything when you died. You know that by knowing him. But I'll tell you what, he sure is talking. God's allowed him to talk to us if he don't know anything.
Oh, I believe the Lord can communicate.
Oh, I believe so too. He's got a job to get done. Well, Daddy was the only person I ever seen after he died, you know, and I saw him. And that was before. That was after the flood, and we lived up at Lyle Campbell's old farmhouse. And my mom died that day. It was a real bad, cold, snowy day. And I kept saying, I think I need to go see my mom. And David said, why? I said, because my dad's standing there looking at me. And he thought I was crazy, I guess, you know. And he says, no, your dad's not there. You know how your dad believes. He's not there. I said, I don't know how he believes, but I know I see my dad. And I've never seen no one before. And my dad was walking the floor with a worried look like he always done when we were sick. One of us gets sick, that's the way Dad would do. So that the next morning, Carlos knocked on the door. We call him our bearer of bad news because he came to me when Dad died. They knocked on the door at 6 o'clock. When Carlos walked in, I said, oh no, because I knew that Mom went on. She went on to be with Dad. So they're good people, they're in heaven.
Yeah, I think she was happy. She was happy to go on.
She was.
She truly loved him.
She really did. They both loved each other.